lecture. In the last lecture, we were doing the barbiturates, and in the barbiturates, we have done that these are certain drugs which are acting on the central nervous system and they cause depression. They have got many actions like anxiolytic, hypnotic, that is, they induce sleep, and also they can be used as anticonvulsants. Now, nowadays, barbiturates are not being used because of their many side effects, and benzodiazepines, the group of benzodiazepine, they have been prescribed instead of barbiturates. Now, the classification of barbiturates, the barbiturates are further classified according to the speed of the onset of their action and also the duration of their action. So after the introduction of the drug into the body, after how many minutes the action they start, and then these actions they are continued for how much time. So there may be long acting barbiturates. Long acting barbiturates, their effect is starting from 1 hour to 8 to 12 hours. That is, after ingestion the action will be manifested after about 1 hour, and it is going to remain for about 8 to 12 hours or even more than that. Their fatal dose is 2 to 3 grams. It is the fatal dose, it is not the therapeutic dose. Examples are barbitone sodium, phenobarbital, methyl phenobarbital. Now these drugs, they are generally taken orally, and they are used for their anticonvulsant properties. In many cases of seizures, epilepsy, these are used. They are very safe drugs because the fatal dose is very high and the therapeutic dose is low. Then there are intermediate acting barbiturates. Their effect is half an hour, that after ingestion the effect may start after about 30 minutes, and the actions they may continue for 4 to 8 hours. Fatal dose again is 2 to 3 grams, and the examples are allobarbitone, amylobarbitone, aprobarbitone, butobarbitone, pentobarbitone. Then the short acting barbiturates, their effect is within 15 minutes, that is after taking the drug, the effect may be manifested within 15 minutes, and it may last for 2 to 4 hours. Fatal dose is 2 to 3 grams. Examples are cyclobarbitone, hexobarbitone, quinolbarbitone, quinolone with quinol with amylobarbitone. So these are quite short-acting barbiturates. And then there is another group which is known as ultra short-acting barbiturates. These are given by the IV route, and they are used for the induction of anesthesia. When general anesthesia has to be induced, then ultra short acting barbiturates they are used, and they are given by the IV route. Onset of action is in seconds, within 2 to 3 seconds, and the fatal dose is 1 to 3 grams. And the examples are thiopentone sodium and methohexobarbitone. These are parenteral drugs. So these are used for induction of the general anesthesia, and if the procedure is a small one, that can be performed. And if the procedure is long one, then the anesthesia is maintained by various other agents. The mechanism of action is that the principal mechanism of action of barbiturate is believed to be their affinity for the GABA A receptors, and it acts on the GABA A BDZ receptor, or chlorine channel complex. Barbiturates bind to the GABA A receptor at the alpha subunit, which are binding sites distinct from GABA itself and also distinct from the benzodiazepine. Now, because of these things, barbiturates are notorious for synergism, that if they are used in association with any other CNS drug, then the CNS depressant action is potentiated manifold. Unlike benzodiazepine, barbiturates potentiate the effect of GABA at this receptor. In addition to this GABAergic effect, barbiturates also block the AMPA receptor, a subtype of glutamate receptors. Taken together, the findings that the barbiturates potentiate inhibitory GABA A receptor and inhibit excitatory AMPA receptor can explain the CNS depressant action of these agents. At higher concentration, that is when the concentration is more than the therapeutic. At a higher concentration, they inhibit the calcium channel. The calcium ion dependent release of the neurotransmitter barbiturates produce their pharmacological action by increasing the duration of chloride ion channel opening at the GABA A receptor. This increases the efficacy of GABA, whereas benzodiazepine increase the frequency of the chloride ion channel opening at the GABA A receptors, and this increases the potency of the GABA. So in one, the GABA is become more efficient, and in the other, it becomes more potent. The direct gating or opening of the chloride ion channel is the reason for increased toxicity of barbiturates compared to benzodiazepine overdose. When we compare benzodiazepine with the barbiturates, we will find that barbiturates are much more toxic. They may lead to death in many situations. Okay. The systemic effect of barbiturates on various organs, of course, the most important is on the CNS. Barbiturates may be hyperalgesic in sub-anesthetic state. That is, they do not cause analgesia, but rather they cause increased sensation of pain. So, barbiturate should never be given in a painful condition unless analgesics are also given. It is not going to cause sedation or decrease in the pain sensitivity. It may potentiate phobic, phobic नहीं बल्कि manic responses. Thiopental produces dose-related depression of the EEG. Thiopental, which is a general anesthetic, delta and theta waves increasing amplitude and decreasing frequency, burst suppression, flatline. So they cause depression of the CNS, and then ultimately this EEG it becomes a flat line, and we may think that the person has died or CNS brain death has occurred. Clinical findings they include confusion in the initial stages, confusion, vertigo, ataxia, slurred speech, coma, and hypothermia. Hypothermia is marked, so much so that the person may resemble a dead body. There are profound effects on the eye also, because eye is an extension of the CNS. Intraocular pressure decreases about 40% after an induction dose of thiopentol or methotrexate. If succinylcholine is given immediately after thiopentol, intraocular pressure returns to pre-induction value. Delay in giving succinylcholine leads to more elevated intraocular pressure. Then the effect on the respiratory system, they are also very profound. Barbiturates are central respiratory depressants. Both rate and the depth of the breathing are decreased. The respiration apparently returns towards normal in a few minutes, but response to hypercarbia and hypoxia remain depressed for a longer time after an intake of pentothal. So in case of therapeutic dose, first of all, there is a decrease in the rate of respiration, and also there is a decrease in the depth of respiration. Because thiopentone sodium is cleared from the plasma very rapidly, so the rate of the respiration it becomes normal, but the response of the respiratory center to increase in the carbon dioxide or decrease in the oxygen, it remains depressed for a longer time. Barbiturates also cause bronchospasm. Laryngeal reflexes are more active after thiopentone than after propofol. Mucociliary clearance is depressed. So the respiration may be so depressed as if the person goes into apparent death. So EEG is flat, hypothermia is present, respiration is 2 to 3 per minute. So the person resembles a dead body and may go in apparent death. On the cardiovascular system, vasodilatation leading to peripheral blood pooling is present. So with this pooling, there is fall in the blood pressure. Myocardial contractility is depressed to a lesser extent than with other volatile agents. Baroreflex mechanisms are only slightly depressed. Thiopental also dilates pulmonary vessels. The heart rate is decreased, pulse and blood pressures they are also decreased. Decreased sympathetic output from the CNS do not sensitize the heart to catecholamine. So if we give epinephrine or norepinephrine, then the myocardium is not going to respond. Renal system, there is oliguria, and the urine may be containing albumin and sugar. The skin, it becomes cold. There is profound hypothermia present. Clammy, that is clammy का उर्दू में मतलब होता है चिपचिपी. So the skin become cold, clammy. It may be cyanotic, but generally it is pale. It may become cyanotic. Then there are bullous lesions present, which are known as barbiturate blisters because of the person is in deep coma for a long time and there is no reflexes and the posture is not changed. The peripheral circulation is also compromised. So on the pressure points, generally around the ankle joint and around the knee joints, there may be blister formation, which are not due to burning. These are because of the coma. So these bullous lesions or blisters, they may be present. These are a sign of barbiturate poisoning. These occur in a small percentage of comatose persons. These are seen on the fingers and medial aspect of the knees and the ankles. In the GIT, the motility of the stomach and intestine is greatly reduced. Paralytic ileus is present. So, GIT sounds are absent. When we have to plan about the therapy, the fact that motility of the stomach and intestine is greatly reduced, that's why we can do the evacuation of the stomach or the bowel after a long time because the drugs will be present in the GIT. And when we treat the person, the first sign of treatment or successful treatment is that the gut sounds they return. The bowels are constipated. There is no diarrhea present. There is no bowel movements present. There is constipation present because of the CNS depression. Now the side effects are that there is tolerance and there is dependence even after therapeutic prescription. Older adults and pregnant women should consider the risk associated with barbiturate use. When a person ages, the body becomes less able to rid itself of barbiturates because of many other diseases which may be present or because of the compromised position of the liver. So barbiturates may be present for a long time in the body. As a result, people over the age of 65 are at a higher risk of experiencing the harmful effects of barbiturate, including the drug dependence and accidental overdose. When barbiturates are taken during pregnancy, the drug passes through the mother's bloodstream to the fetus. After the baby is born, it may experience withdrawal symptoms and they may have trouble breathing. In addition, nursing mothers who take barbiturates may transmit the drug to their babies through the breast milk. With regular use of barbiturates, tolerance to the effect of barbiturates develops. This in turn may lead to a need for increasing the doses of the drug to get the original desired pharmacological or therapeutic effect. Barbiturate use can lead to both psychological and physical dependence. the drug have got a high abuse liability, that the people who use these drugs for a long time, they may become addicted to it, both psychologically, both physically. And if these drugs are withdrawn, then the person may have grand mal, yeah, or status epilepticus. Psychological addiction to the barbiturate can develop very quickly. The GABA A receptor, one of the barbiturate's main sites of action, is thought to play a pivotal role in the development of tolerance and dependence on the barbiturate, as well as the euphoric high that results from their abuse. Because when the people, they take it and they experience an elevation in the mood. Recreational use, the recreational, that is non-therapeutic. The recreational user report that the barbiturate high gives them feeling of relaxed contentment and euphoria. Main risk of acute barbiturate abuse is respiratory depression. So anytime the respiratory depression may occur, physical and psychological dependence may also develop with repeated use. The drug misuse, the drug users, they tend to prefer short acting and intermediate acting barbiturates. The most commonly abused drugs are amobarbitol, ametil. A combination of amobarbitol or psicobarbitol is also highly abused. Short acting and intermediate acting barbiturates are usually prescribed as sedatives and sleeping pills. These pills, they begin acting 15 to 40 minutes after they are swallowed, and their effect lasts for 5 to 6 hours. So these are drugs which have got a very high potential for abuse. They cause dependence, psychological and physical. And then if they are withdrawn suddenly, then the person may go into the status epilepticus. Now, medical legal importance is, number one is suicide. Suicidal ingestion. Barbiturate is one of the most common methods used previously. In the developed countries, people used to commit suicide by taking an overdose of the sleeping tablets. This has declined because now it has been replaced by benzodiazepine injection. So nowadays these drugs, they are not being prescribed to the same extent as it was in the past. So the rate of suicide from overdose of barbiturate, it has declined. People may take benzodiazepine, but the benzodiazepine overdose does not lead to fatal consequences. Accidental overdoses are frequent. They are really very frequent. These are because of the mental confusion, and they are also because of the synergistic effect of barbiturate. Now, suppose if a person has got some pain, it may be joint pain, it may be some traumatic pain, it may be pain in the renal, or pain in the ear, or pain in the tooth, and the person, because of that pain, is unable to sleep or relax, may take barbiturates, no effect, take another one, no effect, take another one. So suddenly there is absorption of a large amount of barbiturate, and the person may go into respiratory depression and coma and may die. Similarly, if the person is taking many drugs and there are more than one drugs apart from barbiturates which are seen as depressant, or when the tablets they are swallowed with alcohol, then there is a synergistic action, and that may occur due to accidental potentiation of the effect of two therapeutic agents. Whereas in individual case, the level of both these drugs may not be fatal, but because of being present in the same situation, they potentiate the action of each other and may lead to the death of the person. It is an accidental overdose. Homicidal cases are rare because of the large doses which are required, but even then, homicides can occur, particularly with injectable agents. Homicide is quite possible. It has been done in the past. The automatism, mental confusion, and drug dependence. Automatism is a hypothesis which implies that a medication induced absence of intentionality for self poisoning and a relative amnesia for serial or single overdose. That people they have suggested that it is a condition in which a person has been prescribed a medicine and that person may take one tablet after the other, second tablet after third, fourth. There is no intention to cause self poisoning or suicide, but because of the amnesia and confusion, he or she does not remember that they have taken a single a dose previously. So when they take far too many tablets in a short time, and they may become poisoned. Barbiturate automatism, when an individual suffering from insomnia due to pain fails to fall asleep, overdoses himself with barbiturates, and loses track of the fact that he is overdosing himself and repeatedly goes on taking the drug, finally lapse into coma. So this is quite common. Now there are two situations. Some people they say that there is nothing like automatism. The patient admitted to the regional poisoning center in Edinburgh, they were assessed to identify the case of drug automatism and those who denied the act of self-poisoning. Only 2 out of 994 instances of poisoning could be attributed to barbiturate automatism, and 29 patients from 31 admissions denied the act of self-poisoning. Now, some people they said that there is nothing like automatism. These are frank cases of suicidal intentions. But if you, as a doctor, give that this is a case of suicide or attempted suicide, in the case of the death of the person, they are not going to be given any benefits through insurance. That's why the doctors they have said that probably this is not suicidal, but it is due to automatism, confusional state. It is suggested that there is insufficient evidence that barbiturate automatism as a clinical entity and that the failure of these patients to remember the ingestion of more than a therapeutic dose is the result of psychogenic defense mechanism. It is concluded that the use of the term automatism contributes nothing to the management of the patient poisoned with these drugs. Mental confusion, there is a state of disorientation, there is lack of attention, and there is inability to concentrate. These are all the signs of CNS depression. When taken in high dose, drug causes serious side effects, including unpredictable emotional reaction and mental confusion. Judgment becomes severely impaired, and the user may experience mood swings. The mental effects of the drug generally depend on the amount of the drug taken and the strength of the dosage. Now, the treatment of acute barbiturate poisoning. Management of acute barbiturate poisoning case is supportive because there was no specific antidote available. First of all, airway protection is important because the drug is respiratory depressant and it may lead to death through the respiratory depression. So cardiovascular support because it leads to depression of the cardiovascular system, and immediate identification and treatment of the correctable metabolic and structural abnormalities have a great impact on the patient's survival. So if we know that the person is hypoxic, then we can give oxygen. If we know that the person has got lowered pH and there is a acidosis, then we can treat that. If there is an infection present, that can be treated. If there is hypothermia present, that should be treated. So these are various correctable metabolic and structural abnormalities which could be treated, and they have got a great impact on the patient's survival. So the airways support the patient with barbiturate poisoning exhibits severe CNS depression with loss of airway protective reflexes, 40% risk of aspiration pneumonitis because there are no protective reflexes present, the person may inhale and may choke, and there may be pneumonias. Assessment and stabilization of the airway must be performed early in the course of poisoning, and mechanical ventilation, that is ventilator, with oxygenation must be provided immediately. Now, I'm really forced to say, because the books you read in toxicology or in forensic medicine, they're very old books. That's why they never say that you should put these people on ventilator, because at that time when these books were published, ventilators were not available. But here, because of the CNS depression and respiratory depression, the person should be put on the ventilator. It is going to have twofold effect. One is that oxygen will be provided in an adequate amount. Second, that the glottis will be protected and there will not be any aspiration. Positive pressure ventilation should be used with caution and only when necessary to maintain adequate oxygenation, because barbiturate impair reflects cardiovascular adjustment to the inflation of the lungs. So when the lungs they expand, the heart rate it becomes less. So these reflexes they are impaired because of the depressant action of the CNS, depressant action of the barbiturates. And because the blood pressure is lowered, so they raise the foot end of the bed to ensure drainage of the respiratory mucus. Mechanical section can also be performed. The cardiovascular support, hypotension which is present, it is due to vasodilatation and direct myocardial depressant action, respond to crystalloid bolus infusion, and rarely requires the use of vasopressor drugs. So if there is hypotension present, then there are two things which should be done. One is that if adequate oxygen is given and the myocardium is not hypoxic, then its action will be enhanced. Second is, if there is hypothermia present and we treat that hypothermia, then the cardiovascular functions will be improving, and very rarely we may have to give the pressure drugs. When adequate amount of crystalloid solution have been infused, the patient still remains hypotensive. Vasopressor drugs like dopamine or norepinephrine may be initiated, and also a search for other causes of shock must be conducted. The person may be bleeding from inside, the person may have some injury present which is not diagnosed. Insertion of a pulmonary artery catheter and hemodynamic measurements may guide fluid and vasopressor therapy. We should not give large amount of fluid because it is going to lead to pulmonary edema. The metabolic support, that the infusion of 20 to 50 gram of dextrose, 2 milligram of naloxone, and 100 milligram of thiamine may be appropriate steps in the initial evaluation of these patients. This is just an exclusion. We are excluding when we give dextrose and thiamine and the patient responds, it is that the person may be suffering from alcoholic coma. We are giving naloxone and the patient improves, then it is supposed that the person is suffering from opium or morphine. So these things should be tried in the initial phase, and then decontamination and elimination. Once the patient is stabilized, then the drug removal is performed. Removal may be complete with several different methods such as orogastric lavage. Here, this orogastric lavage can be performed after many hours, many hours, because the GIT motility is stopped and the drug it is present in the lumen of the stomach or in the intestine, and it should be removed before it is absorbed. Then activated charcoal may also be given so that the drug may not be available for absorption. It may be absorbed onto the activated charcoal and then it is removed through the suction, forced alkaline diuresis or dialysis, and possibly exchange transfusion. Now, this diuresis and can be utilized only if the kidneys they are functioning normally. Otherwise, we may have to take the help of dialysis or exchange transfusion. Exchange transfusion is quite helpful in case of small children. We infuse or we transfuse 1 liter of blood and we take 1 liter blood from the patient, and this is going to reduce the amount or the concentration of the drug in the blood. After stabilizing the patient, gut decontamination and enhanced elimination of the absorbed drugs are performed. Gastric decontamination or the stomach wash. Barbiturate poisoning is one of the poisoning where gastric lavage may be life-saving. Now, in most of the cases nowadays, gastric lavage is not preferred. It is not recommended, but barbiturate poisoning is one of the poisoning where gastric lavage may be life-saving. Orogastric intubation and lavage is indicated for life-threatening overdose that present soon after ingestion. Should be performed only in the patient with protected airway. That is endotracheal intubation, and then the gastric lavage should be done. Then the use of activated animal charcoal, gastrointestinal elimination may be enhanced with multiple doses of activated charcoal, multiple dose activated charcoal. It is capable of reducing the elimination half-life of phenobarbital from 148 hours to 90 hours, 19 hours. Now suppose if in a normal case, in an untreated case, the phenobarbital level is going to fall from 100 milligram to 50 milligram. It is going to take 148 hours. But if we initiate to the patient multiple dose activated charcoal, then the same level may be obtained after about 19 hours. Furthermore, in a three-arm study in human volunteer comparing multi-dose activated animal charcoal alone to multiple dose activated charcoal and forced alkaline diuresis and forced alkaline diuresis alone. Multi-dose activated charcoal appeared more effective than forced alkaline diuresis in clearing the phenobarbital because diuresis is when the drug has been absorbed and then it is being removed from the body. And activated charcoal, the drug is removed from the body before it has got a chance to be absorbed into the systems. With multi-dose activated charcoal, the elimination of half-life of phenobarbital may be reduced from 148 to 19 hours, whereas alkaline diuresis reduces the half-life only to 47 hours because here the drug has been absorbed into the system and then it is being removed. Enhancement of the renal elimination in absorbed poison, forced alkaline diuresis because of its weak acidity and poor lipid solubility. Urinary elimination of phenobarbital may be enhanced with alkalinization of the urine, which increases the ionization of the drug and traps it in the urine to prevent its reabsorption through the tubular membranes. Forced alkaline diuresis may be achieved with the use of 2 ampoules of sodium bicarbonate, that is 44.6 milli equivalent per ampoules, to 1 liter of dextrose, 5% dextrose in water solution. The rate of infusion started at 200 mils per hour is guided by the urinary pH, which should be maintained between 7.5 to 8. Potassium replacement becomes of utmost importance in this setting because hypokalemia promotes bicarbonate ion retention and prevents bicarbonate excretion, thus interfering with alkalinization of the urine. So during this forced alkaline diuresis, we have to maintain the level of potassium in the body, because if there is hypokalemia present, then it will not be beneficial. The forced alkaline diuresis will not be beneficial. There is another method, that is extracorporeal drug removal, conventional hemodialysis, hemoperfusion, or both of them significantly lower the blood phenobarbital level, and they are indicated for phenobarbital poisoning in the presence of renal failure with anuria. So when there is anuria present, when the renal function is not present, then we cannot do forced diuresis, either alkaline or acidic or anything. So then we have to really do something else. If there is shock present with ileus, that is gut sounds are not present, then we cannot also use multi-dose activated charcoal. So it has no role in poisoning with short-acting barbiturates. Long-acting barbiturates, it is beneficial, but short-acting barbiturates, it is not. There is only one case report in which a continuous volume for volume hemodiafiltration, which is a mode of renal replacement therapy, and it is commonly used in critically ill patients with hemodynamic instability. This was found to be efficacious in clearing phenobarbital. So long-acting barbiturates can be benefited from patient suffering from overdose of long-acting barbiturates can be benefited from it, but short-acting, no. There is an other measures present like plasma exchange transfusion. It is successful in removing phenobarbital in neonates, because in the neonates the blood volume is less. So suppose if the total blood volume is 1 liter, we infuse 1 liter blood, fresh blood, which does not have any barbiturate in it, and also we remove 1 liter of blood from the baby where phenobarbital is present. So after this, the level of barbiturates in the blood should drop by 50%. Peritoneal dialysis may be done in case of severe phenobarbital poisoning. Successfully treated by peritoneal dialysis, a total of 2.24 gram of the drug was removed during 2 periods of dialysis, and the patient was believed to have taken about 10 grams. This compares favorably with the amounts that can be removed by the hemodialysis. So almost the same results may be obtained with peritoneal dialysis and hemodialysis. Technique of peritoneal dialysis is simple, safe and effective. It should be considered for use in cases meeting the criterion for its use. Complication of the barbiturate poisoning as well as the complications of the therapy. The poisoned person must be monitored continuously. Hypothermia may be treated with passive rewarming. Hypothermia is very profound, and it should be treated with passive rewarming and continuous temperature monitoring. Rarely the patient may require active rewarming measures. Now that is, the person should be kept in a warm room, should be kept adequately covered with a blanket, and the temperature of the air which that person is breathing should be elevated. So generally these method may be sufficient. The patient with delayed gastric emptying and ileus should receive nothing by mouth until the gastrointestinal tract recovers and the gut sounds reappear. Now, recovery of the gut sounds, that is the first sign of successful treatment. The patient with barbiturate toxicity, they have got reduced judgment, reduced coordination, they are ataxic. Therefore, these patients should be monitored closely when they are out of bed, because they may fall, they may meet an accident, they may do anything. So they should not be allowed out of the bed without adequate supervision. Now the treatments, historically an analeptic has been used to treat acute severe barbiturate poisoning, and it was known as nicotinamide or megamide. So it is also known as coramine. Exact mechanism of the action is not known. It is suggested that it acts as a CNS stimulant, possibly through reticular activating system. Rates of success with these compounds during the treatment of barbiturate overdose is not at all favorable. We have been told when I was a student that you should never give nicotinamide or coramine to such patient because it is not beneficial, rather it is harmful. Instead, the patient should be given oxygen. The patient should be kept warm and decontaminated. The stomach should be evacuated because nicotinamide it may cause stimulation of the CNS temporarily, but again the depression sets in and it is very severe and it is not going to respond to any other thing. So nicotinamide used to be something, but it is not used now. Now the mechanism of barbiturate overdose and the various medico-legal aspects. Barbiturates are either a salt or ester of barbituric acid. A group of barbituric acid derivatives that act as CNS depressant. They are used as sedative and hypnotics in the clinical practice. Barbiturates are easily available in capsule, tablet, liquid, and also in the injectable form. The commonly used barbiturates are phenobarbital and secobarbital. The usual dose of phenobarbital for use as an anticonvulsant in the adult is 50 to 100 milligram, which is given in 2 to 3 doses per day. Either it is given BD or TDS. When a series of seizures, serious seizures, known as status epilepticus occurs, adults are usually first given 300 to 800 milligram IV followed by 120 to 140 milligram every 20 minutes up to a maximum of 1 gram or 2 grams for sedate. This is for anticonvulsant. In routine, it is given in 50 to 100 milligram 2 to 3 times, but if status epilepticus present, then a bolus dose may have to be given and then maintenance dose may have to be given, and the total amount which is consumed may be up to 2 grams. If we are prescribing the drug for sedation, the adults they are given 30 to 120 milligram per day divided into 2 to 3 doses. For sedation before surgery, 100 to 2 milligrams they are given as intramuscular injection about 1 hour before the surgery. So these are the various preparation of barbiturates. They are in the form of tablets, but most of them they are capsule. And what is an overdose? An overdose is any amount of a drug taken over the prescribed level. Suppose if the person has been prescribed a drug to be taken in 100 milligram daily in divided doses, 2 doses, and if he is taking it 150, that becomes an overdose. Any amount of a drug taken over the prescribed level, because the sedative depress the central nervous system and also depress the brain function, and overdose can cause unconsciousness, respiratory failure and death, and it do cause these things with barbiturates. How does an overdose occur? Deliberate overdose usually occurs when someone takes a higher dose than prescribed. So deliberate with suicidal intention. Accidental overdose. Okay, suicidal deliberate overdose, that may also be due to the continued use of barbiturates as a prescribed drug because it causes CNS depression. So the person may have suicidal tendencies. So it is one of the complications of the therapeutic dosage of barbiturates. Accidental overdose can occur when someone takes a dose, gets confused or drowsy, forgets that they have already taken a sedative and takes another. So this thing is repeated 2 or 3 times. Unfortunately, with the sleeping pills, there is little difference between the amount that helps you to sleep and the amount that can kill. Majority of the deaths from barbiturate overdose occur when the sedative is mixed with either alcohol, heroin, or other CNS depressant. So there is a very strong action. There is a strong drug potentiation or synergism from barbiturates if it is taken in therapeutic dose, either with ethyl or with any other CNS depressant, which may be heroin or any other, then there may be potentiation of the action and it may lead to the death of the person. These drugs may be even prescribed drug. You should remember that the death of the famous pop singer Michael Jackson has occurred from this drug synergism. Effect of barbiturates overdose may be the psychological effects, sedation and somnolence, and decreased attention span, impaired memory and judgment, impaired thinking. Barbiturate can cause a worsening of the pre-existing emotional disorders, particularly depression, and can trigger psychotic episodes, including hallucinations. So these things they may be repeated. It's not that a person who has had one incidence of overdose will be cured. No, these things they can happen again and again and again. The physical effects are nausea and vomiting, but not in every case because it is depressant to the chemoreceptor trigger zone, so nausea and vomiting may not be present. There is severe weakness because of hypoxia and because of the muscle weakness. There is confusion, there is shortness of the breath, there is extreme drowsiness, darting eye movements, that is nystagmus may be present, decreased blood pressure and heart rate is present, fainting is present because of the decreased heart rate and decreased blood pressure, impaired motor coordination, slurred speech, stupor, coma, and death from depression of the respiratory centers in the brain. So many of the signs they resemble acute alcoholic intoxication. The chronic effects of prolonged use of barbiturates, the patient taking high dose for a long time, they experience difficulty in thinking, that is, they become confused. They have got a slow speech and comprehension with dysarthria, poor memory, faulty judgment, narrowed attention span, and emotional liability. In susceptible patient, psychological dependence on the drug may develop rapidly. They say we cannot sleep, we cannot pass our day unless we take the drug. The extent of physical dependence is related to the dose and the duration of the use. Like phenobarbital, 200 milligram taken 200 milligram daily taken for many months may not induce significant tolerance, but 300 milligram per day for more than 3 months may induce a withdrawal symptom when the drug is stopped, because 200 is within the therapeutic dose and 300 is more. So if the person is taking higher dose, then after a short time the body may become dependent, physical dependence may present, and when the drug is discontinued then there may be a withdrawal symptom present. Tolerance and tachyphylaxis develop irregularly and incompletely. Thus, considerable behavior, mood, and cognitive disturbances persist even in the regular uses. Now, barbiturates they cause enzyme induction, and because of the enzyme induction, tolerance it occurs. Now, addiction, a chronic daily dose of 600 to 800 milligram for 1 month or more of a short-acting barbiturate such as psychobarbitol which produce physiological dependence. The higher the The higher the daily dose, the stronger the dependence and more severe the abstinence syndrome. This abstinence syndrome can be fatal. Barbiturate use can lead to both psychological and physical dependence. Psychological addiction can occur quickly. Signs of drug dependence include relying on a drug regularly for a desired effect. The addicted abuser believes he or she must take a barbiturate to sleep or to relax or just to get through the day. वो कहते हैं मेरा तो दिन ही नहीं गुजरेगा इसके बगैर. Continued use of the barbiturates lead to physical dependence. People develop tolerance for barbiturates. They may need more of the drug or a higher dosage to get the desired effect. This can lead to an overdose, which results when a person takes a larger than the prescribed dose of a drug. Because the barbiturates they cause enzyme induction in the liver, that's why suppose if the person was taking 50 milligram, then he may have to take 100 milligram, then 150 milligram, and similarly higher and higher doses. People who get in the habit of taking sleeping pills every night to fall asleep might start out with one tablet at night, progress to two, then graduate to four to get the same effect. One night the dose they may need to fall asleep might also be the dose that stops their breathing. So this is actually death due to automatism, that the person keeps on increasing the dose, forgetting that he or she has already taken the drug, and then abruptly when the drug is absorbed, then patient goes into the coma. Generally, barbiturate overdoses occur because the effective dose of the drug is not too far away from the lethal dose. Symptom of an overdose typically includes severe weakness. These are the same symptoms that like therapeutic, but they are enhanced. Extreme weakness, confusion, shortness of breath, extreme drowsiness, slow heartbeat, and darting eye movements, that is nystagmus, may be present. The pulse may be very, very slow, may be imperceptible. The volume may be very, very lowered. So when you examine such a person, you will find that the person is not breathing, the person is pale, the person is cold, the heart rate is not perceptible, the pulse is not perceptible, there is no blood pressure, and you may think that the person has died. So this is a classical case of apparent death. The amount of a fatal dose of barbiturate varies from one individual to other. However, the lethal dose is usually 10 to 15 times as large as a therapeutic dose. An overdose affects the heart and the respiratory system. The user then falls into the coma and dies. It is pointed out that the barbiturates can have a multiplying or synergistic effect when taken with other CNS depressant. For example, if someone drinks alcohol and takes a barbiturate, like we take a tablet, we swallow a tablet with water or with milk. Many people in the Western countries or in Americas, they swallow the tablet with alcohol. So if a person is drinking alcohol and taking a barbiturate simultaneously, the effect may be 10 times more stronger than either if either one is taken separately. Many people they have died because they were ignorant of this fact. So the blood alcohol level may be in the sublethal level, the blood barbiturate level may be within the therapeutic, but the cumulative effect, the sum total of both of them, that may have caused the severe depression due to synergistic action and may have caused the death of the person. So taking barbiturates with alcohol is, I should say, absolutely fatal. Many deaths have occurred because of this. The complications and sequel of barbiturate abuse: Stevenson-Johnson syndrome, nystagmus in the eye, color vision impairment, acute confusional state. Now, this acute confusional state may lead to injury or death in many ways. Macrocytosis, probably this is because of the decrease of the essential nutrients, folic acid. Reduced level of consciousness, syncope, pyrexia of unknown origin. The person may be having and increased temperature. Rhabdomyolysis, blood ammonia levels are raised. Cerebellar syndrome and induction of the enzyme cytochrome oxidase P450. This enzyme induction may be utilized for a beneficial purpose in the case of newborn babies. The babies who are suffering from kernicterus, they are prescribed barbiturates, and these barbiturates, they cause induction of the enzyme, and this enzyme induction enhances the metabolism of bilirubin in the liver. But suppose if the baby is suddenly discontinued with the treatment, then may have the withdrawal. Withdrawal when the intake of therapeutic drug which is used as anxiolytic or sedative is stopped or reduced below a critical level, a self-limiting and mild withdrawal symptom can ensue. Now, this is in the case of therapeutic dose. After only a few weeks, attempts to stop using the drug can exacerbate insomnia and result in restlessness, disturbing dreams, frequent awakening, and feeling of tension in the early morning. But there are no doubt withdrawal symptoms present. If the drug has been used only for a few weeks, then it may not be possible to stop the drugs because this is going to cause even more severe insomnia, restlessness, disturbing sleep, frequent awakening in the night, and tension in the day. When there is withdrawal present on the first day of withdrawal, the patient shows increasing restlessness, tremulousness, and weakness. There is the person is anxious. There may be tremors present. The person may be weeping, crying, and complains of weakness in the muscle. On the second day, more prominent tremulousness and sometimes increased deep tendon reflexes and increased weakness. Second to third day, seizures may be present, convulsions may be present because initially the drug is an anticonvulsant. So if it is stopped in a person who is otherwise taking it for a long time, so the reverse action, then its pharmacological action will be seen. Seizures or muscular contraction may be seen. It is generally seen in more than 75% of the patient who were taking more than either 800 or more 100 or more than 800 milligram of the drug per day. These seizures and convulsions, they may sometime progress to status epilepticus and death. So this is a very grave situation. From second to fifth day, delirium, insomnia, confusion, frightening visual and auditory hallucination, and even hyperpraxia and dehydration may be present. So this is really dependent. If the person has not died due to status epilepticus, then these mental signs, they will be present. Now, in case of the pregnant women, taking barbiturate during pregnancy increases the chance of birth defects and may cause either problems such as prolonged labor and withdrawal effects in the baby after birth. Achha. Pregnant women who must take barbiturate for serious or life-threatening condition should take only after a thorough discussion with their physician. ठीक है